What lies behind the image of a woman who lives in the shadow of her own dreams, when the essence of her being is trapped by the expectations imposed by a society thirsty for fixed roles? Carl Jung invites us to delve into the realm of femininity in its least developed state, a reality where the psyche fragments and surrenders to emotional dependence. This journey through deep psychology reveals that immature femininity is not merely a set of behaviors or superficial attitudes, but a reflection of an internal struggle in which the integration of the unconscious and the conscious has yet to be achieved. The image of a woman who clings to traditional patterns and lifeless archetypes becomes a mirror of a psyche that has not allowed itself the freedom to discover its multiple dimensions. Jung believed that every individual, regardless of gender, possesses an inner symbolic richness that encompasses both the luminous and rational side and the dark and emotional one. When a woman exclusively identifies with pre-established roles, her connection to her true essence is compromised, and emotional dependence emerges as a refuge from the fear of uncertainty. In this state, she behaves as if she were a puppet controlled by external forces, refusing to embrace the complexity of her being. Consider the story of Clara, a woman who, since childhood, was conditioned to fulfill an ideal that exalted delicacy, submission, and superficial beauty. As her life unfolded, Clara became a symbol of traditional femininity, always attentive to the needs of others, willing to sacrifice her own desires to maintain harmony at home and in relationships. However, in the silence of the night, a deep emptiness made itself present, revealing the disconnection between her external image and the inner universe yearning to be explored. Jungian psychology would interpret this disconnection as a manifestation of immature femininity, in which the integration of the anima, the deep feminine archetype residing in the unconscious, is obstructed by adherence to archaic models. Clara's situation reflects what happens when the inner voice is relegated to the background and the socially constructed image is prioritized. A woman who does not embark on the process of individuation, the integration of internal opposites, deprives herself of the opportunity to achieve emotional and spiritual maturity. The individuation process, so central to Jung's theory, demands the recognition and acceptance of both the feminine and masculine aspects of the soul. Mature femininity is forged in the fusion of sensitivity with strength, intuition with reason, and in the ability to navigate between light and shadow with a deep understanding of oneself. An example illustrating this contrast can be found in Greek mythology, where figures such as Athena and Aphrodite represent opposing visions of femininity. Aphrodite, a symbol of beauty and desire, often embodies a femininity that is overly identified with the sensual and the fleeting, lacking the foundation of internal reflection that could transform her into a force of true empowerment. In contrast, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, represents a femininity that integrates intelligence and strength, paving the way for a maturity that transcends mere aesthetics. The dichotomy between these two goddesses reflects, in the collective imagination, the internal struggle many women face when trying to reconcile the image imposed by culture with the search for their authentic identity. Immature femininity manifests in dependence on external validation. It is common to see women who, having not developed a deep sense of self, seek confirmation of their worth through the approval of others. This behavior is evident in interpersonal relationships where self-affirmation is based on social recognition rather than stemming from an inner conviction. The vulnerability of depending on the gaze of others not only limits personal growth but also creates a vicious cycle in which external expectations become the sole compass for decision-making. Thus, a woman becomes a prisoner of a role that, while seemingly comfortable, condemns her to an existence devoid of authenticity. In contrast, emotional and psychological maturity involves the ability to maintain a healthy relationship with oneself. The integration of the anima, or the inner feminine aspect, is not a process that happens overnight but rather a constant task of exploration and acceptance. The true strength of femininity lies in the ability to confront one's own shadows and transform anguish into creative energy. Once this integration is achieved, a woman is no longer forced to fit into predefined molds but instead opens herself to the possibility of reinventing herself based on a deep understanding of her being. The experience of inner transformation can be compared to the rebirth of a phoenix, From the ashes of a life governed by expectations and conditioning, a strong and authentic identity emerges. This process is not linear and is often accompanied by moments of crisis and confrontation with dark aspects that had been exiled to the unconscious. On this path of self-discovery, every setback becomes an opportunity to integrate parts of the self that had been ignored or rejected. The evolution of femininity is based on the ability to transform pain into wisdom and weakness into strength. A contemporary example can be found in the journey of women who have challenged imposed social norms. Consider Laura, who, upon facing the loss of a relationship that had defined her identity, was forced to question the roles she had assumed without reflection. As the structure of her certainties crumbled, Laura embarked on an introspective journey in which she discovered hidden talents, repressed interests, and a strength she had never imagined possessing. This process of internal reconfiguration allowed her not only to free herself from the constraints of a static ideal of femininity, but also to rebuild a life in which authenticity and self-affirmation became fundamental pillars. Her story is a living testament that true maturity is achieved when the unconscious is allowed to dialogue with consciousness and when the integration of all aspects of the self is recognized as the master key to a fulfilling existence. The path to integration is not without challenges. The resistance to abandoning deeply ingrained models results in an internal struggle that sometimes leads to intense emotional conflicts. It is in these moments of tension that Jung's ancestral wisdom becomes most relevant, as he invites us to see every obstacle as an opportunity for growth. Inner metamorphosis requires courage and determination and often involves confronting fears that have developed over years of conditioning. The shadow, the dark territory that holds the rejected aspects of the personality, presents itself as a formidable challenge but also as an inexhaustible source of creative resources if one learns to recognize and work with it rather than fear it. Immature femininity is characterized by a dichotomy between the conscious self and unconscious impulses that, when left unintegrated, create a sense of fragmentation. This phenomenon manifests both in everyday behavior and interpersonal relationships, where a lack of internal coherence leads to decisions based on reactive emotions rather than true personal reflection. The inability to connect with the symbolic universe that each woman carries within is reflected in a life that lacks direction and purpose. Instead of embracing the complexity of her being, the person conforms to a superficial image that, though accepted by society, leaves an emptiness deep within the soul. The integration of femininity, therefore, requires a deliberate process of self-knowledge. This journey toward wholeness involves not only the acceptance of the luminous aspects but also the recognition of the darkness that resides within every being. Confronting the shadow is an intense experience that, if approached with courage, allows pain to be transformed into a vital force capable of illuminating the deepest corners of the psyche. It is in this crucible of emotions and experiences that true identity is forged, free from the constraints imposed by social conventions that no longer align with internal reality. The challenge lies in transcending the emotional dependence that characterizes immature femininity. This dependence manifests in the constant search for validation from others, in the need to be recognized and appreciated by external sources rather than finding approval within oneself. The process of individuation demands that each woman become the architect of her own existence, leaving behind the idea that her worth depends on the acceptance of others. By taking responsibility for her inner growth, a woman empowers herself and reconciles with her own essence, becoming a beacon of light that inspires others to do the same. In practice, this process is reflected in significant changes in the way one relates to others and makes decisions. A woman who integrates her inner conflicts is capable of setting healthy boundaries, recognizing her own needs, and building relationships based on mutual respect and authenticity. This shift not only improves personal well-being but also contributes positively to the social environment, as an integrated psyche has the power to transform family and community dynamics. Stories of personal transformation, both in the field of psychology and in cultural narratives, offer a vibrant testament to what it means to overcome immature femininity. Some accounts illustrate how, through therapy, mentorship, and a deep commitment to self-knowledge, women who once felt trapped in rigid roles emerge as leaders and creators of new paradigms. These testimonies serve as a reminder that the path to integration is arduous but full of rewards, the possibility of living an authentic life, where every experience, no matter how painful, becomes a lesson that strengthens identity and enriches existence. The story of each woman who walks this path is unique but shares the essence of a transformation that begins with recognizing one's own value and accepting the inherent duality of the human condition. Confronting the dark side of one's personality is not an act of weakness but a demonstration of the courage needed to face internal contradictions. In this sense, the process of individuation becomes an epic journey in which every challenge is an opportunity to discover new dimensions of the self and reinvent one's identity. Jung's work invites us to question the models of femininity that have prevailed throughout history and to recognize that behind every stereotype lies a complex and multifaceted universe. Immature femininity, by remaining in a state of dependence and fragmentation, prevents a person from becoming the creator of their own destiny. The integration of the psyche, on the other hand, allows a woman to break free from the chains of conformity and embrace the totality of her being with a renewed sense of strength. This process, though difficult, reveals itself as the path to a fulfilling existence, where passion and reason coexist in harmony. The ability to transform pain into a source of wisdom is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful legacies that Jungian psychology has left us. The pain that accompanies immature femininity, in the form of internal conflicts and disappointments, can become the catalyst for profound change when it is acknowledged and worked through in the realm of the unconscious. This act of recognition is not a sign of resignation but a testament to the strength found in authenticity and the acceptance of one's own vulnerability. By learning to embrace every experience, a woman becomes a transformative force capable of illuminating even the darkest corners of her existence. The journey toward integration is, ultimately, a call to authenticity. Every step, every confrontation with the shadow, and every moment of introspection contribute to the construction of an identity that transcends the limits imposed by a society that still clings to archaic models. The task is not easy, and often the path is overshadowed by the fear of rejection or loneliness. However, it is precisely within this challenge that the seed of transformation lies. A seed that, when nurtured with the courage of self-awareness, blossoms into a strong and unique identity. The narrative of immature femininity and its evolution toward maturity is woven with threads of experiences, emotions, and reflections that speak of the internal struggle to achieve true freedom. Every woman who embarks on this journey becomes the protagonist of her own story, challenging conventions and embracing the mystery within herself. It is a process that, more than a destination, is a constant transformation, a dance between light and shadow that invites the discovery of the infinite potential residing in each soul. Jung's legacy is present in this journey, reminding us that the search for wholeness is an inherent part of the human condition. The integration of the unconscious and the conscious, the fusion of opposites, and the ability to transform fragility into strength are essential elements in building an authentic and vibrant identity. Femininity, in its fullest form, manifests when one learns to engage in dialogue with the multiple inner voices, when it is recognized that every emotion, every thought, and every desire is part of a whole that deserves to be explored without fear. Every experience, no matter how small, contributes to the construction of a richer and more complex psyche. Personal transformation is fueled by the ability to see pain as an opportunity for growth, uncertainty as a reason for reinvention, and solitude as a chance to discover one's true inner voice. It is within this continuous process of confrontation and reconciliation that a woman frees herself from the dependence that binds her to pre-established patterns, paving the way for an existence in which authenticity becomes the cornerstone of her being. The story of immature femininity, seen through the lens of depth psychology, is an invitation to transcend the limits imposed by conformity and to embrace the richness of internal experience. It is not about rejecting traditions but about reinterpreting them in the light of a knowledge that acknowledges the inherent complexity of the human condition. It is a call to abandon the comfort of social masks and dare to reveal the soul in its most genuine form, allowing each scar, each laugh, and each tear to become part of a narrative of transformation and empowerment. The challenge of integrating what is fragmented, of creating a dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious, stands as one of life's greatest challenges. Yet, it is precisely within this challenge that the promise of a more fulfilling existence is hidden, one in which a woman reconciles with her own complexity and discovers the immense power that resides in authenticity. Every step on this path, though sometimes painful, becomes a victory that illuminates the road toward an identity liberated from the chains of the past. Within the narrative of inner transformation, countless testimonies affirm that true maturity is reached when one takes responsibility for knowing and transforming every corner of the self. The evolution from an immature femininity, marked by dependence and fragmentation, toward an integrated identity resonates deeply with those who have chosen to face their fears and rebuild their inner world. The stories of women who have emerged from chaos to build lives governed by authenticity serve as eloquent testimonies to humanity's capacity for reinvention and for transcending the limitations imposed by a reductive view of femininity. Ultimately, the path toward feminine integration is neither linear nor free of obstacles, but within every stumble lies the possibility of rebirth. Jung's message, as relevant today as in his time, urges us to recognize that true strength resides in the ability to embrace all facets of the self, in the courage to confront darkness, and in the wisdom to transform pain into a source of light. Every woman who dares to walk this path unknowingly becomes a beacon of hope, an example of how authenticity can transform life, and a reminder that the quest for wholeness is the noblest of missions. The narrative of this transformation is woven with the indelible ink of lived experiences, courageous decisions, and an unbreakable commitment to inner truth. It is a story that evokes deep emotions, invites reflection, and resonates in every corner of the soul, reminding us that the essence of femininity is not defined by the limitations of an imposed ideal but by the richness of an existence that dares to explore all its nuances. Jungian psychology, with its insistence on the importance of integrating the unconscious and the conscious, provides us with a compass to navigate this journey, showing us that every obstacle is an opportunity for growth and that every shadow can be transformed into a source of light if given the space it deserves. Within the resonance of these ideas lies an invitation to rethink the concept of femininity in all its complexity. The image of a woman trapped in immature femininity fades in the face of the possibility of an existence in which wholeness is embraced with passion and without reservation. A new way of being emerges, where the individual breaks free from the shackles of conformity and embarks on the adventure of discovering an identity that, far from being confined to fixed roles, expands and reinvents itself at every moment. It is a call to live with the certainty that true strength lies in the ability to integrate every aspect of the self, in the courage to explore the depths of the soul, and in the determination to turn every experience into a stepping stone toward authenticity. As these words are spoken, the voice that utters them becomes an echo of internal transformation, a melody narrating the odyssey of finding, within the complexity of the feminine psyche, the key to a more fulfilling existence. This is a narrative that not only challenges pre-established paradigms but also invites every listener to immerse themselves in the fascinating world of self-exploration, to discover the richness hidden in the integration of the conscious and the unconscious. Jung's proposal transcends the boundaries of theory to become an invitation to live authentically, to accept every facet of the self, and to transform fragility into a vital force that illuminates the path toward personal fulfillment. In every verse of this video lies the essence of a journey that, though arduous, promises the reward of a rediscovered identity. The struggle against fragmentation and emotional dependence is a battle for inner freedom, for the possibility of owning an existence forged through profound self-knowledge. It is a challenge that calls for looking beyond the surface, venturing into the labyrinth of the unconscious, and recognizing that true maturity arises when all inner voices are integrated into a unique and powerful symphony. Thus, Jung's vision of immature femininity becomes a beacon for those seeking to transcend the limitations imposed by roles and stereotypes, offering a path toward authenticity and fulfillment. The invitation is clear: to leave behind the dependence on external validation, to break free from the chains of conformity, and to embark on the journey toward total self-integration. Along this path lie the seeds of a transformation that not only enriches personal life but also has the power to reshape communities and entire societies, demonstrating that true strength emerges when the totality of the self is embraced.